Peace, ma'am. It's the pressure cooker, and I'm back as I promised. I wanted to give you guys a quick commentary video about Isis Wisdom's live last night, where she interviewed a young woman named Tiara Eli. She also goes by, let me see what, Eli Sovereign Empress. Now, just a disclaimer: you might hear my son in the background, honey. I'm trying to pause when I can, because I'm recording on StreamYard, so it's a little tricky to edit. Anyway, so let's get into this interview. Child, this interview, it was juicy at times, and then it was kind of like a a nothing burger at times. The format of her interview was she started out by herself. She gave a little bit of background and tea about what's been going on with her and Rod. Referring to Isis. Then she interviewed Tiara, and then at the end, Tiara hops off, and then Isis comes back on and drops some more information and her impressions about things. So let's start out with when Isis was by herself. So when she started out the interview, Isis was like, look, basically, and a lot of this is, I'm paraphrasing, okay? So she was like, I put Rod Hayes on, like, I think she said she introduced Rod Hayes to her Telegram group, and she does have a very big Telegram group. I think she's on Discord now, and that's kind of how people got to know more about him. And so she said shortly after that, he started to switch up and change, and I guess he had grown a bit. And the two most notable things that bothered her was she had lost two people within the last couple of years. So at the a few years ago, she lost her brother, and I actually remember that. I remember her coming on saying she lost her brother and she was going to take a break. Excuse me. And she said that was like around the time some of the first like attacks started, with him saying stuff and accusing her of things, and it was very hurtful, because I'd imagine if you're grieving, those kind of things are going to hit harder. And then recently her mom passed away. May they both rest in peace. And she said similar things that were coming up. So she's just not having it, and she's tired. And I told y'all he must have did something, because she doesn't just, I've never seen her do this type of video before. Usually she's like trying to encourage people to to have peace and things like that. And so she also made it clear, I don't remember if it was the beginning or the end, she was like, I am going to be filing a defamation lawsuit against you. So that's wild, y'all. So I don't know what else he's been saying. Like I said, you know well, she got into it. I shared a little bit in a video yesterday, things I've heard him say. But she also added that he had been accusing her of being part of taking down Rashad Jamal, and which doesn't really make sense, because before Rashad Jamal went to jail, Isis Wisdom was like kind of like supporting him. So it's very weird. It makes no sense. But anyway, he just could not stop talking about her, and she's had enough. Isis did say before the interview started that she previously was an interviewer when she was in the music industry. So she does have journalistic skills and training. And you know what? I will say this. I'll talk a little bit, hopefully I remember, about her interviewing style and what I thought about it. So anyway, child, let's get into this interview. Okay. So, oh my God. Um, so apparently it was just I had so many feelings about this live, because some things was just like, oh my goodness, what is going on? Tiara, she said that she came to know Rod through Rashad Jamal. Apparently, she was working for Rashad Jamal before, and I think at times, like, not living with his family, but they were close. There was even a part in the interview where she said that she was supposed to be his next wife or something. He had asked her, but then they fell out. And so what happened was, while she was still, I guess there must have been some romantic element to their business relationship, because Rashad Jamal was a polygamist, okay? If y'all don't know. And he was always like promoting that, and just anyway, I'm just gonna keep my thoughts to myself and stay on topic. So she must have been, working with them and doing some extra stuff with them as well. And apparently they fell out, because she was introduced to Rod through Rashad, and then I think Rod wanted to work with her, and so I think Rashad Jamal subsequently got upset about this, and apparently she got fired from the university, which is Rashad Jamal's streaming service, where he has a bunch of videos and stuff. And I guess they fell out, and then she needed a place to stay. And previously, Rod Hayes had offered for her. I don't know if I don't know if he offered for her to come out there. I don't even know. I don't even remember what state he lives in, but he had kind of put it out there and was trying to quote unquote drop some spiritual prophetic tea or whatever that stuff was going to happen. And I just get skeptical with stuff like that because it sounds like it was self-serving. So anyway, she decides to hit him up for a place to stay because she now doesn't have a place to stay. And I think in between there, she stopped and lived with some friends or maybe family for a short period. And she said she went and stayed with Rod for about 3 weeks. Now, that's not a very long time. But anyway, during the time that she stayed with him, she says that she did the rooms in his house was filled. It's like a 3 bedroom in a basement. The couch was occupied by somebody. And so she thought it was fine to like sleep in his bed. And she claimed that she had set boundaries as well about, what it was going to be and what it was not going to be. So I'll give her props there. She started out by setting boundaries. And she said at first it was fine and then it wasn't. Now, here's where I have an issue because she said that she's used to various types of relationships, not necessarily romantic, but just an array of relationships where physical touch in a non-sexual way, for healing purposes or whatever, just everyday life is not a big deal to her. So as long as he stayed within reason, it wasn't like a big deal. So she was fine sleeping in the same bed. And that just makes me kind of feel like you're naive because I feel like my first thought is, why are you even in his bed? Like, to me, it's like he didn't have nowhere else to offer you. And, let's keep it a buck. If you're not staying with him that long, he could have offered you his bed. If you're just sleeping there, I would have slept on the floor before I slept in some stranger's bed. Like, it's just weird. I think that is strange and naive. And when she's talking about it, she's trying to say like, she didn't, she set boundaries and stuff. But it's just like, this is a grown ass man. I don't care if he's spiritual or not. Men are men. And it's just weird. I just think that was weird that she thought that was going to be like, okay. Now, that being said, just because she's sleeping in his bed doesn't mean that he gets all access to do whatever he wants to her. Absolutely not. So we're going to unpack that. So she said it was fine at first. And then, he slowly started doing little things, rubbing her back and, touching different parts. First it was her breast, and then eventually he had touched her genitals, and then he did some other stuff that we won't get into. So, but there was the extent of what happened was it was disturbing, but she did say there was no R word, but that's still sexual assault because it's like unwanted advances. It's still like, it's not okay. And so I think she said it happened about 3 times and then she left. And then there was an incident with a knife where she pulled an, I don't, child, she just tried to get away. She tried to get away because there was a lot of stuff that wasn't making sense. She had also alleged that, he had grabbed her chin and tried to move it towards his mouth, basically trying to force her to kiss him. There was a lot of inappropriate behavior. But I still go back to the fact that, why did you think you were going to be safe in a stranger's bed? Again, that doesn't mean it's your fault. I just think that that's just feels naive to me. I remember a situation where this man was like, that I really knew, and he clearly was into me, but he was like, let's go to this event and, I can get this hotel, together, but there's only one bed. He was just coming up with a bunch of BS. And I was just like, did you think I was going to come stay with you in a hotel and sleep with you in the single bed? Nah. Like, I just kept it a buck. Then he tried to backpedal and try to pretend like, oh, I do this all the time with friends. I'm not your friend and I'm not interested. Like, it's just, you just have to set certain boundaries with people. Like, nah, stop trying to be slick. So, that did concern me. It kind of made me wonder, what kind of environments is she used to, where you just go and stay with people. And then she just said she doesn't have a good relationship with her family. Like, they're not good people. So I can understand her trying to stay away from that kind of toxicity. Some other disturbing things, apart from the essay allegations, was, I have heard Rod talk about Big Mama a lot. And I just assumed Big Mama was Mother Earth. I'm going to be honest with y'all. That's why you really got to ask questions, because sometimes you don't know what these people be talking about. What did I tell y'all in the last video? Didn't I tell you Didn't I tell you he reminds me of? I think it's Anton. I want to say the character's name is Anton from In Living Color. Kwame, what are you doing, sweetie? My bad. Gotta keep an eye on the little one. So, he started to unpack for her what Big Mama was. And I was kind of shook because at first, he had this picture up and it was like it was just this random, I felt random, black woman, this large black woman. She described as a hefty grandma carrying a basket, but then she was also in the shape of a phallus. And I'm like, this is disturbing. Child, listen, it's just made me reevaluate so much stuff. Now, I am not an avid Rod Hayes watcher. I see him on, like I said before, Black Magic 363 platform. I listen to quite a lot of people on there, and I've been introduced to a lot of people through that platform, which I'm very grateful for. But this is why we really have to like check and double check, right? And you also can't follow people blindly because, and I said this with the whole Rashad Jamal situation, there's so many people running rampant on the internet, going crazy. Oh my gosh, Rashad Jamal. And it's like, you're entitled to your opinion, but what you're not going to do is try to shame me for mine. Okay. And it's just, listen, the man would not be in jail if they didn't have nothing on him, period. Like that kind of crime. No, you don't just rig up evidence on people. So, it's just, I don't know. It was a very strange interview at times. Then she dropped some extra tea at the end, child. And this felt a little bit messy because it felt like, okay, is this really necessary? She said that he's a chain smoker. He doesn't take care of himself or his family. He doesn't practice spiritual hygiene. She said he doesn't eat healthy, child, because he be telling people all this stuff like, eat healthy, da da da. So, again, these are all things that we should know. You shouldn't just blindly follow people. Some of the stuff shouldn't be a super shocker. We don't know what happens when people turn off the camera. You know what I'm saying? So you got to work your own spiritual situation and make sure you're discerning for yourself. So this is all the tea. Then at the end, Isis comes back and she was like very angry that Rod Hayes had insinuated that she set up Rashad Jamal. Now, if you're still here in the video, I'm going to be honest because I like to give unbiased commentary, okay? Regardless of what community this is. Isis brought up Remedy H, okay, which at one point I think she did like watch Remedy H and stuff and shouted him out and things. But I think there was a rift between them, and it really wasn't Isis's fault. She just shared some things, and he was mad, and whatever. But then she came back saying that there's already an individual, aka Remedy H, who's taken kind of responsibility for what's happened to Rashad and that he's a cosmic judge and this and that. I said on the Ko-Fi. Long story short, I felt like this was a little bit cap, and here's why. Because respectfully, Isis, you were supporting Rashad prior to his arrest and subsequent incarceration. So I feel like, I just, it doesn't make any sense to me that you're saying, well, Remedy H, said what he did, and he's a cosmic judge, and he dealt out judgment. It's like either he did it or he didn't do it. Okay, I'm referring to Rashad. I'm not saying Remedy H might not have done some shamalama ding dong. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, it just feels like you were supporting him, and now what are you saying? Just be honest and say, I wasn't really sure what to think, which is what I think a lot of us. I said that in the beginning, I didn't know what to think, but because of the line of work that I do, I will always err on the side of, I want to hear what the victim has to say. I want to hear what this victim is saying. And to that point, let's get into the behavior of the chat. You're not going to be able to witness it because she blocked the comments in the chat. The chat was atrocious. One of the things that grinds my gears is when there's any type of allegations, people don't even take the time to listen to the person's story, and they're just in the chat. You lying, you a op, you an agent, you're just a hussy, you're just stupid stuff. And it's always like in our community, it drives me crazy. Like Black people, it happens everywhere, but Black people be so quick to dismiss another Black person's story as it relates to this type of situation. And then when I see women do it to other women, it drives me even more crazy. So many pick-me's in the chat, so many male-identified women talking about some this and that. And then people was trying to call her ugly. I'm like, yeah, What does this? First of all, she's not ugly. Okay, you're being childish. Second of all, what does this have to do with the topic at hand? Like, your faves could be doing stuff. Okay, like, it's just, it's, this is how people get caught up and they can't see, situations for what it is. Nobody is perfect. And it's just, it just drives me crazy. Like, the chat, I'm actually glad she removed the chat because it was so ignorant, y'all. Like, it's so ignorant. At least listen to what the person has to say before you start attacking them. If after they've shared their story, you've determined that you don't agree or you don't believe or whatever, you can do that respectfully. You still don't have to be up in there talking about some, you a slut. And it's just so ignorant, and it's so damaging for people who actually do experience these things, who experience sexual assault or anything like that. Like, grow up, get it together. It's like, it's almost like they're just so hollow and just dumb that whenever somebody says something about somebody they like or that they worship, let's keep it a buck, you're worshiping these people, you fall apart, you melt down into a puddle, and you just don't have any emotional regulation. Like, it just drives me insane. So this is what I have to say. Those are my 2 cents about the situation. I wish this woman healing and health, and I really hope in the future, it sounds like this situation would have like opened up her eyes, but like, nah, you can't trust no dudes. Like, no, especially somebody that you've never like dealt with. This wasn't a friend to be like, I'm gonna go sleep in his bed and it's gonna be okay. You don't know what could have happened. He could have really hurt you, regardless of who he is. And I'm not just saying this about the person. He could have really hurt her, or it could, situation could have been bad. So, or worse, I should say. So anyway, what do y'all think? Let me know in the comments, and I hope you guys have a great day.